Hi there, Project Matrix here, and I'm going to show you how I cast my prosthetic pieces, my hand prosthetics, in silicone in two different molds. One is a polyurethane jacket mold, and the other one is just a Hydrocal 30 mold. And purpose of this is for my Kerrigan costume that I'm currently working on. And I needed to make new pieces. As you can see, I have both the hands already made here. However, these are old and I wanted to cast some new ones, primarily because the fact that this one I just slapped some acrylic paint on to try and see if it got all the detail, because I didn't have the silicone pigments at that time. And as you can tell, there's a pretty major color difference, and obviously having the pigments really helps. So I'm going to show you guys how I do it. Alrighty, so I have both my molds here. As you can see, I have my polyurethane jacket mold, which I'm pulling off here. Fingers came off because it was plaster of Paris, but you can see all the detail inside. And over here, I have my Hydrocal 30 mold. Unfortunately, it did not hold up as well because I had some undercuts, and so it unfortunately cracked after actually pulling off one of my other molds. Of course, you'll need to release it though, so I use Poly-Ease 2300. I do get all of my supplies from Brick in the Yard. They're located in Dallas, and they do have an online store. I just start by putting a light coat on the inside of both of the molds, and I use a platinum cure silicone. It's called Platsil Gel 10, which I also get from Brick in the Yard. It comes in two parts. Right there's part A. I'm gonna go ahead and take some of the electric tape off, and I forgot to spray that one. Now, it's very important that whenever you use your silicone pigments that you need to put it in the part B. I've heard horror stories about putting it in part A. I've never done it myself, but I would never try it. Also, it doesn't really take very much. I'm using a flesh pigment here because I'm going to try and get it close to my own skin tone. It doesn't take very much, maybe a drop. I just got a little bit on my straw there. I'm trying to use it as a stirring tool. I just scrape the sides very good. Try and get all the material. I'm going to go ahead and pour an equal part of part A into this other cup. It's mixed 1-to-1 by volume or weight. I just don't have a scale handy, so I end up using by volume. Now, I use what's called a double mixing cup method, where you pour all the contents into one, stir it up real well, and then pour it to the other. It's make sure that you use all the material as possible, and that straw's just not really cutting it for me, so I went and got one of my old brushes and used the wood end. Scrape the sides really good. A lot of times you'll end up having stuff not mixed in on the sides or on the bottom, and that can inhibit the cure and then pretty much just make one really big gooey mess. I'm going to start on the polyurethane. I just like that mold a lot better. It was a lot easier for me to work with, and it actually ended up holding up very well. I'm very pleased with this particular type of mold, and I'm sure I'll be using it a lot more in the future. But I'm just slushing it around, trying to get it into the little deep recesses. There is a horn towards the bottom of the hand, so I'm trying to make sure that that doesn't end up being as one big air bubble that can cause problems. I'm going to go ahead and try and set this in. And I'm going to go ahead and take some electrical tape. I like using this a lot better than duct tape. Duct tape just leaves a lot of residue and can be a little difficult to take off, and electrical tape sticks really well to itself. So I just put it around once tightly to make sure that the mold stays closed, and I tend to put them on their back just so I don't have a big oozing mess down towards the bottom, or I don't have any thin spots up at the top. And as you can see, it's starting to really thicken up. You only have a 6-minute working time with this after part A hits part B, so you do kind of have to move, but I like to take my time, making sure I'm spreading it in all the little crevices. This one was a lot easier to fit on, but I do the same exact thing and go ahead and lay it down. And now we gotta wait 30 minutes. So after waiting for 30 minutes, I forgot to press the record button, but you take the back plaster, the white part, off first, and then you can peel your piece out of it, and that's pretty much what you end up getting. Now, this particular hand was not sealed before. I didn't put any mold soap on it. I forgot to spray it, and I didn't seal it with any crystal clear, so it stuck pretty good to it. It takes a little bit to get it off, but with some patience, can definitely get it done. And what the baby powder was about is it can be a little sticky, especially if you're trying to open it right at demold time. And since it was 30-minute demold time, I ended up opening it up right after about 35 minutes at room temperature, and it was cured just fine. Now I have some holes drilled into the hand that allows for the goo to go in. I call them overflow. However, I don't go all the way through the hand like most people do. Unfortunately, I got a little tear up there at the top, and those little doodads are from the overflow holes, which I can trim off later. Now I'm going to take this one off. I can't pull too hard because this mold has already seen better days. It's sticking a little bit, but it's still considerably easier to take this one off than the other polyurethane, because this hand has been not only mold soaked but also coated in crystal clear, so it's a lot easier to take this one off. It's still a little sticky, so I'm going to brush some baby powder in there so it doesn't stick to itself or anything like that. I'm a little too generous with baby powder. And once I find the edge on this, this actually comes up quite easily, significantly easier than the other one. There we go. And unfortunately, you'll see here in a second, that little green bit is from the previous castings. Silicone does stick to itself, so it ended up sticking to itself, but that's nothing I can't trim off. It's not really a big deal. And there we go. These will be stuck on generally with some Pros-Aid and blended all the edges, and I'm going to be painting it, all that fun stuff. So there you go. Now I went ahead and trimmed up some of the edges and showing you the old casting and the new one. Significantly better. Now, not so much on this one, unfortunately. A lot of the problems seem to be just the mold deteriorating. The crack seems to be getting bigger, which causes some problems with cleanup. I was, however, able to clean most of it up. A little close up here. It was able to pick up all the details in my clay sculpt that I did of the hand very nicely, so I was quite pleased with that. And that very thick edge down towards my wrist will be completely covered up by the rest of the suit, so I'm not necessarily concerned about blending that in. And unfortunately, I don't think I'm going to use this one. As you can see, it didn't completely do what it was supposed to. It has some voids on the inside, so I'll most likely end up using the pretty green one because it actually casted correctly back when the mold was still in pristine condition. It doesn't look bad, but there are just a couple problem areas, one of which is over here by the thumb. There we go. That part didn't cast correctly, as well as those pits on the inside. The green one, even though will cause some problems for me whenever it comes down to the makeup application, I think it'll be better for it in the long run. And there you go. There's your 2 silicone pieces.